they've got like hundreds of thousands of followers. Like I guess their income is predicated upon preaching fruit is the way. And from what I heard, they had similar health issues to what I ended up having. And so they've had to start eating meat, and like they're sneaking fish and this, that. And then they get caught, and now it's a whole YouTube video where they're in tears.
With my brief experience of the YouTube world and veganism in the YouTube world, I think that seems to be the quest with a lot of vegans, is kind of trying to find once you're on this path, how can I further optimize health?
But I think a lot of people, not all of them, but like there's a good deal of people who end up on this path pursuing health and trying to sort issues out. And like because if you're doing it for the animals, then like you're fine eating like all this junk, like an Impossible Burger makes sense in that scenario. But if you're doing it trying to sort out your health and pursue health, like this processed, chemically made muck, it doesn't make sense to you. And those lead to different outcomes and different choices. Like, I think the way I did it, I kind of suspect, like, if I'd been eating more junk, I might have been healthier. If I cheated more, like, I might have been healthier. But, like, I was so kind of like, all right, this is what I'm doing, stick to it, until, like, I decide to do something else. And it's just like...
So you were so healthy, in quotations, that it was bad for you. So is it that you weren't getting... Because I guess when I hear the term fruitarian, I'm like... There's such a wide array of, within the range of my minimal understanding of nutrition, there's a wide range of vitamins, minerals, etc. that we need. And eating fruit, I mean, is it possible to get everything that you need?
Alright, so I don't know. I think eating fruit here, you can't. Like, I don't think it can be done.
Because everything's imported, and then it's not even ripe when it's picked.
So like you've got poor farm practices, like the land's depleted. It's like I'll see people like debate B12, and the thing I've not heard one person say is whether there's cobalt in the soil, and whether the bacteria is there to like make it available to the plants, and to make it available to the plants, so that the animals that you're supposedly getting B12 from, like, is present in the grass they're eating, say if it's a ruminant. So like we're debating all these possible ways of getting B12, but no one's like, is there cobalt in the soil? Probably not. Like, we've depleted all the nutrients, and the only nutrients we put back in is NPK, and like this is the bare minimum to...
NPK is what?
Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, I think.
Okay.
And this is like the bare minimum to get a plant to grow. But if that's all that's there, there's so many other minerals that are needed for the nutrition to be present in the plant, that is like, it's just you eating empty food. Like, there's nothing there.
You might as well be eating chips.
Yeah. And I think, like, at my worst point, I got so bad that I could taste there was no nutrition in whatever I was eating. But yeah, anyway. So to answer what you're saying, like, it may be a different scenario. Like, if you're in a country where you can pick the fruit ripe from the tree and it's allowed to ripen properly, like, there may be the nutrition may be available in that scenario. But if you're picking stuff before it's ripe, like, if you're picking, like, there's bare fruits, if you're picking them before it's ripe, it's gonna be like functionally toxic. It's like, you shouldn't be eating that. Like, it's not ready to be eaten yet. So I haven't got to the point where I think it necessarily, like, there was a point where I was like, nope, can't be done. But I haven't got to the point where I think, but I've kind of walked that back, and I'm thinking, like, you know what, like, in these scenarios, I don't think you can get the nutrition from it. Even with organic stuff, it's probably like difficult to get the nutrition from it. Like when you're picking stuff so early, when you're having to make decisions and choices for commercial interests rather than health interests, because we're not growing food for health. If we're growing food for health, we'd be doing things differently. We'd be like locally sourced or growing in your back garden or all that stuff. If you're growing food for the supermarket shelf, like health is like the last thing. Even if you're printing health on the marketing, like on the package, it's like, if we're caring about health, we'd be doing different things. But, yeah.
So, with all this food potentially, well, fruit or veg potentially being depleted of nutrition.
Yeah.
Actually, I remember a couple of years ago, I was at some event and they were saying the same thing. They were trying to sell things.
What supplements?
Something like that. I can't remember. It was like one of those kiosks that's part of a bigger event.
Oh, okay.
But I can't remember. But they were just saying the same thing. I overheard him chatting to whoever, and it was like, yeah, like 5 a day. Your 5 a day is now really, it should be 7 a day because everything is just, it's lacking in the nutrition you need. But anyway, so what do you make then of kind of having been fruitarian yourself? What do you make of like the YouTubers and people that are really preaching fruit is the way? And
like I have a real interest in like the people who say it's sustainable and they're like, yeah, I'm thriving. I'm like, how are you doing it? I want to know, because like that didn't work for me. It wasn't compatible or something else. It was like, it didn't work. And then on the other side of that, there's plenty of those YouTubers who like, they get caught sneaking meat in and sneaking fish in. And I'm like, that's just peak. Because you'll get people like me who like, if I'm eating this way, I'm not straying from it. And like, I'm not straying from it until like I break down and re-te-te. But you have these people who were doing it. They've got like hundreds of thousands of followers. Like I guess their income is predicated upon preaching fruit is the way. And their health has got, from what I heard, they had similar health issues to what I ended up having. And so they've had to start eating meat and like they're sneaking fish and this, that, and then they get caught. And now it's a whole YouTube video where they're in tears and they're breaking down about their health. But it's like, you should have said this from then, innit? Because this is information for people to know and information people might need to know. Because I guess one of the places I'm at is that there's a book I want to buy about bio individuality, which I haven't read yet. But even just the concept of that, where like, you know what, this way of eating is compatible with certain people, and this other way of eating is compatible with other people. And if they're trying to do something they're not compatible with, they'll run into problems. While someone else is like, yo, I'm fine. Yo, this is best shape I've ever been in, best way. It's like, cool. But we kind of end up kind of championing one way of eating or one set of beliefs that other people just fall apart on, and it's just not compatible with them or their bodies or their genetics or whatever. So I think it's important for people to know that, you know what, you need to figure out what's compatible with you and your body and listen to your body rather than what all these people are telling you, because like that's just data and information and stuff to try. But if your body's like, yo, this ain't working, like...
But I think we lose that ability to listen to our bodies or listen to any part of ourselves as we grow.
Well, isn't that like part of what your parents do to you?
Potentially. That's a topic for maybe a few minutes later. But where I was going with it is, I think It's a channel called What I Learned.
Oh yeah, what I've learned.
Yeah, so he's a really cool channel. He does a lot of research. But he was doing some research on sodium for maybe a keto video or something like that. And there's this kid in hospital. No. There's start from the beginning. There's a baby. So from a very young age, he just kept craving salt.
Yeah.
Everything he was having, salt. And his parents just gave in and just gave him the salt. Then when he was like 3 years old, he went into hospital for something. And because the hospital had such a low sodium diet, he died within 7 days. So it turns out he was just listening to his body. His body needed the sodium. It turns out he had this rare condition. I can't remember what it's called or what it's about, but he needed that extra sodium to keep himself alive. So that listening to your body is so important. But I think as we grow, we have all these belief systems that are layered on top, and we kind of confuse what is our body talking and what is just our in a dialogue that's been conditioned over the past 10, 15, 20 years old, depending on how old you are. So yeah, it's so important to listen to your body. And I think I have a friend who's gone vegan as well. And she started introducing other foods because her body, she can feel that her body and then needs it. And when she has these other foods, it's like, my body needs it.
Yeah.
But I think what I see happening is people fall onto this idea of I need to eat in this particular way, but because they're so convinced of this idea, like I always say this, your brain needs to maintain equilibrium. So once you've convinced yourself of an idea, any data points that are contrary, you're going to ignore, because for you to acknowledge them, that's going to cause dissonance. Your brain just doesn't want that. And so, yeah, people ignore these data points for longer than they should, perhaps.
I think even dissonance, or like the avoidance of dissonance, is conditioned, which is maybe another conversation for another time. Because, but just to touch on it quickly, like your brain doesn't know anything, so we're conditioned into a society of certainty, but like your brain is set up to navigate uncertainty. So we end up with this perception that we don't like uncertainty, but your organ in itself is built for uncertainty. It's not built to be certain. It's built for uncertainty. But that's another thing. Like, this is why I kind of like, I have an issue with people talking about intuition. Because a lot of people talk about intuition as though, like, yeah, listen to your body, like your body knows. Yeah, listen to your intuition, listen to your gut, it knows. But it just ignores normalization, and conditioning on top of that. So like, once your body's normalized to something just off, and once you've added conditioning on top of that, your intuition is ruined. Like, if our intuition just functioned, like, we wouldn't be eating like this. We'd already know, like, yo, this is gonna cause diabetes, this is gonna cause heart disease. Like, you don't need scientists to tell you that. If we just knew, we'd be doing it. And even with animals, like, people often talk about animals just know, but once they start getting fed like other crap, they don't go like nah. Like, they'll just eat, and they'll eat themselves into sickness, because like, now there's other options, and it's a bit, there's so many things that override intuition. And like, intuition in itself isn't even this objective thing, because like I'm saying, if it was, like, we'd just know what we need to do. And even then, listening to your body becomes such a difficult thing to do, because you're told that this means that and that means that. So you've been given an interpretation which may or may not apply to what your body is like telling you right now. And so there's all these little points at which, like, it just falls apart. And yeah, It's just, it just gets confusing. But
So I guess to conclude, veganism may not be for everyone, but I think there's also something you said years ago which always stuck with me, which is kind of a bit ironic because you then went down that path, but you'd come to this conclusion that at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what we're doing. It's just people engage with extremes, and that's when problems arise. And one of them being potentially fruitarianism. Is that the word you'd say?
fruitarianism, like,
Yeah.
I really don't remember saying that, man.
Yeah, my memory's on lock. Or maybe your brain had to cut it out just to maintain equilibrium.
Nah, because you know what, I never particularly viewed what I was doing as extreme, though I've considered it like recently. But because to me, like, being overweight is extreme, like being unhealthy is extreme, like doing something you know is damaging is extreme. Like, if I'd reached the point where I'm like, you know what, I need to do something different, and I'd continued on doing something that, like, my body is like screaming at me that, yo, this isn't working, then, like, to me that's extreme. Like, but trying to be healthy and trying to live a long life, a quality, like a high quality life is not extreme. Like, that's what I was pursuing. Like, relative to other people, because other people, I always like, oh, you need balance, but I don't understand what balance means, because what I need is nutrition, and I need a balance of nutrition. But we have this kind of idea that, like, well, you can achieve balance by just eating all these random foods, but we're not understanding how those foods are interacting with each other and with our body. Like, those interactions can create imbalance. So just saying, all right, just eat a bit of this, eat a bit of that, and then it's balanced. And then you throw in ssugar and sweets, and like, yeah, you have to be like thinking I'm being cruel because I'm not eating sugar or sweets, which will inevitably lead to worse health. Is like, I don't understand where the balance is in eating stuff which is just bad for my body. Like, because you're not saying, like, you're not implying balance as, yeah, you're not implying balance in that sense of like, okay, this is good for you because you think I'm, what's the word, man? What's that word when you're not allowing yourself to do something?
Discipline? I don't know.
No, it's not discipline. But that's another thing. People think discipline is like unbalanced. Like, I can't remember the word, but like, people think I'm not being kind to myself because I'm not allowing myself to eat ice cream and treats. It's like, yo, that stuff makes me ill. Like, I don't feel good after eating that. Like, so how am I being unkind to myself by doing things which make me feel good? Like, I enjoy eating this way. I don't miss those things. So where am I missing out? Like, what am I missing out on things that I'm choosing not to eat? Because I'm not doing it for any other reason than I've made a choice. And this was kind of like what I always used to say to people, in that, like, I'm choosing to eat this way for my health. So if I ever reach a point where, like, I think I need to eat meat because that's the healthiest thing to do, then that's the choice I'm going to make. And I always believed that until I had to eat meat again. And I was like, maybe I was talking too much. But, like, again, that was the choice I made when I reached that point. And I found my health improved after making that choice. So I was like, okay, this was what I said, and this is what I did. Like, I lived what I said.